Hello and welcome to a historic moment for TriStateVoice.com. I'm Tom Campisi, publisher of TriStateVoice.com. We are a digital Christian newspaper that has served Metro New York for the last 27 years. But today, we are presenting our first ever Zoom Q&A. Our guest is Issa Musharbash. He's the CEO of Provident Legacy International Corporation, also the author of a new book called Go Back to Your Country, or Stay and Defy All the Odds. And this is his, today we're going to talk about it. And Issa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm so excited as well that this is your first Zoom kind of Q&A that you're doing, and that I get to be the first one. So it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first, but hopefully it won't be the last. And there's no standard. So you're going to set the standard for everyone. I don't mean to put any pressure on you.
Oh boy.
So I had the opportunity to read your book about a week ago, and it as the title says, certainly an inspirational story about immigration. But what I found interesting was that it had a wide appeal in so many other ways. It's a family drama. It's a love story of how you met your wife. It's a business book. And ultimately, it's a story of hope. So I want to ask you first, what inspired you to write Go Back to Your Country? You're a CEO, you have a young family. I'm sure you're very busy, but what is the why behind this effort?
Tom, I think about this a lot. I have three children. My youngest is 3 years old. My oldest is 10. And what happens if my life is over tomorrow? What happens if the Lord decides it's my time to be with him? What would happen to my kids? Would they ever remember at that age the things I wanted to instill and impart to them from my own experience? And for a while, I've been thinking about this book. I have friends that have been telling me, Issa, you got to get a book out. You have to do this. And I always thought there's a time and place for everything. It was too early to write a book 10 years ago. Although when we look at this book that I wrote ended, like the time period in which it ends is about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So like the grand finale happened 10 years ago. And at that time, you would think that I was ready to write it. But I needed 10 years to live through the principles that unfolded in my life, at least. And I had a friend that kept pushing, Issa, write. And then eventually I gave in, and I said, I need to do this. And it took me 3 years to get here, but now I have something, Tom, that I could leave to my kids.
Excellent.
And like, this is my greatest gift to my own children. I never had a doubt, at least since I turned 17, when I gave my life to the Lord, that if I'm gone, I'm ready. But now I feel more ready than ever because I get to leave something behind for my children and anyone who God is entrusted in my care, whether it's through business, my centers of influence, that they could have something. Because as you read, you may notice that these stories are not new. They're the human journey. And
Absolutely.
From the focus groups I've been working with in the early phases of this, I realized that my story is just an excuse for you to reflect about your story, because you have one too.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. As a writer, I know sometimes one paragraph can be hard. So I congratulate you on this great book. So early in the book, you talk about not just one immigration journey to the United States from the country of Jordan to the United States, but your family actually did that 2 times. So why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my mother's side of the family immigrated from Armenia during the Armenian genocide. And their journey led them to settle in Jordan. And my father's side there were really more Jordanians, and um, in their process of getting married, there was an arranged marriage. They had to keep they had to follow the culture at the time,
Hmm.
which I kind of open up in the book. I give you an insight into how things were done, and there was a separation between mom and dad, and mom tried her best to bring us to the U.S., and she had to bring us to Egypt, and from
Hmm.
there take us to the United States. That plan failed. There's a whole chapter on that, but we eventually immigrated to the United States, and um, I'm taking an Arabic course right now, right? And I'm struggling with the class. You know, I'm doing really well, but it's a struggle. It's a
Hmm.
struggle to get there. And I tell the professor, like, my Arabic English life is complicated. I came to the U.S. at the age of 2. I graduated kindergarten here in America. I got my ABCs. I
Right.
got the accent just right. But then we went to Jordan from first to seventh grade. It took me a couple of years just to get the English out and begin to wrap my head around the Arabic language, and was just getting by, getting by. By seventh grade, we're back in the US, and now I had to undo all this
Wow.
Arabic and try to hurry as fast as possible, learn English again. And it's just it's a ping pong of you're here, well now you're here, well no now you're here. And But I figured it out. I could speak English. I'm getting back my Arabic. One of my regrets is when I got to the United States permanently at the age of 12. In order to fit in with the culture and with my friends, I had to suspend speaking
Right.
Arabic. I told my mom, you talk to me in Arabic, I'm going to respond back in English. And
Mm.
that's how it went for
Okay.
years. And now I want to I want to pass that to my children, and I realize I can't do it if I'm not speaking fluent. So I
Right.
started taking classes at Harvard.
Oh, great.
I'm in my second Arabic class now.
Yeah.
Um,
So you get to the United States, you're 12, now you're 12, you're in seventh grade, you're working in a deli. And is this in Jersey City? Is this in Bayonne?
this is in Jersey City,
Jersey
but
City. You're
that's as
working in a
far as
deli.
of a location I could give you
Um,
to
a
protect the
seminal
identity.
moment,
Yeah.
a seminal moment comes when you're 12. You're doing a delivery. You got a big tip. You're coming back with some cash to your boss, and tell us what happened.
Yeah. So it's a very emotional part of the book. A 12-year-old, I had to work. Um, I'm making the delivery. And then I get jumped by
Mm.
a group of kids. I kept thinking about the $40 in my pocket. I got to bring that money to my boss, who was cruel. And I kept thinking, if the thought of losing that $40, I may lose my job. And these kids want the money, and I have to make sure they don't get this money. And that's what was going through my mind as an innocent 12-year-old, but
Mhm.
that's not what was really happening. Um, the kids were just beating me up, not trying to take my money. They probably had no idea I had money or I was doing a delivery. They just wanted to beat up this 12-year-old kid because he was not American,
Right.
although he was, right? He
Mhm.
wasn't, he didn't appear American enough. He didn't look like them. And so the main guy leading the group kneeled down right before I thought I
Mm.
was passed out, and he said, go back to your blank
Mhm.
country,
Mm.
and left it there. And I still didn't understand that at the age of 12. It took me a little while to understand what was happening. This was not a robbery. This
Right.
was a hate crime. And it, for a kid that wanted to finally embrace and settle in his home country, in his land. Um, it was traumatizing, and um, I used that story to then take on an immigration theme to tell my story, and that opens up the book, and then you see how everything unfolds prior to that event and after that event.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the teenage years. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me as the dad of a lifelong basketball player was you got your first Nikes. And that was a big deal back then with the Air Jordans and what was happening. And you're trying to fit in. You get your Nikes. You join a gang. You not only join the gang, you become the leader of the gang, and then kind of act out on some aggression. And what were those years like as a kind of a teenager, kind of trying to find your way?
Yeah, I think at that age you're trying to belong. You're trying to belong, and kids that drift and join gangs, they're just crying out for a
Mhm.
family that could speak to them, understand them, make them feel empowered, make them feel like they have a voice and that their ideas matter. Um, and a gang for a rebellious kid is perfect. Like, it's the perfect place. You're my buddy. I got your back. And in a ground of bullying at school, that's what you need. You need to know that if someone picks on you, that you have a group of people that would, you know, make people back off. Oh wait, he's
Right.
part of that group. Let me not pick on this kid. Let me pick on another kid. Um, and so those years were dark because I was searching for a place to belong, and I found nothing but rejection. Be it my dad, be it the church,
Mhm.
which I interpreted as a young kid as God. Like, if someone who's a leader in a ministry rejected me, it was God rejecting me. Uh,
Right.
it had to do with my big nose. It had to do with how God made me. I'm just not worthy. I don't belong. I'm never gonna get married. I'm never gonna be happy. Um, it was those fears that drove me to a place of acceptance. So when a gang says you're welcome here and you're cool and you belong and
Right.
you're loved, um, and then I grew in that gang in a way, and uh, till music caught my attention, and then of course until the Lord caught my attention, and
Sure.
that's when everything shifted. I was
Yeah.
17 and a half when my life turned around.
Yeah. In the book, you talk about working in a Dunkin' Donuts with your mom and learning customer service from her and how she interacted with the customers. But then an interesting happens because the Dunkin' Donuts was across the street from City Line Church, and
Yes.
someone invited you to come in and in a youth service or to a service.
Yeah, so on Sundays, I would see people from church coming, getting their coffee. They walk in and they say, God bless you, and they're happy. And I kept wondering, like, who are these people? And then on Friday nights, younger people come in, also going to a youth service, and they're also happy and friendly. Um, and at the time, I'm like, okay, there's some girls inviting me to go to church. Yes, we're going. We're going to church, and that's how I guess God used Dunkin' Donuts out of all places to point me to a church across the street. And I had trouble going to church because uh, I grew up uh, in church. I grew up going to church, and uh, in the U.S., I had a bad experience in church. When I was trying to figure out who I am, the church said, "Whoever you're trying to figure out does not belong here." Um,
Mm.
trying to help me, point, trying to help me get pointed to the right path, but it didn't work. It actually pushed me away. Um, but at Dunkin' Donuts, it was a suspicious experience. I wasn't sure I wanted to go, but you bring a teenage boy, a 16-year-old, beautiful girls his age that invite him over to anything, he's going.
Oh yeah.
And that was part of the
Yeah.
story.
So speaking of beautiful girls, there's an interesting twist to the story too, because earlier in the book you talk about your high school sweetheart,
Yeah.
and and just tell us about that, the heartbreak,
Yeah.
which is in the book, and then the reunion. That's really because you come back to the Lord. Tell us about all that.
Yeah, I met this girl in high school. Her name is Ketty, the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. But what made her even more beautiful is that I felt like she loved me, like that she would. The idea was like, how could someone great, this great looking, this warm, love someone like me? Uh, that that was, and maybe this is what every teenager goes through in their first, their first crush, right? But maybe not. I really felt like this is my wife and I'm gonna fight for her. I'm
Mm,
16 years
wow.
old. She was scared from that comment, but she broke up with me 4.5 months into our short time together dating. She was getting serious about God. We didn't meet in a church. We
Mm,
didn't meet. It wasn't through ministry. She belonged to a church in downtown Jersey City, and she was getting ready to get baptized. And I think it could have been an interaction with her pastor that said, "Okay, if you're getting baptized, you're taking your relationship to the next level with the Lord. You may want to examine the relationships you're in. Are they equally yoked?" It could have been that coaching that,
sure.
wait, this kid Issa, you need to let him go because he's
Hmm.
not serving God right now. And she let me go, and she let me go good. Like, she did not connect with me ever again, and that really broke my heart as a teenager. And I remember my mom telling me, like, if she's the one, she'll, God will bring her back. Just you're young. Take it easy on yourself. And I was hoping to find someone like her at the church when I was a teenager, but I couldn't find anyone there that captured my heart. Um, and then a few months went by. I got more involved in the church. I started teaching and preaching and getting invitations to share my story, how God rescued me from a place of darkness. And I bumped into Ketty through her older brother, who became a youth pastor, and um, she was very tough on me, but eventually she gave in.
That's great. That's
She
a
gave
great.
in. There's so much details in the book on that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about in the beginning about the book too. It's kind of like, it's like Rocky. He's fighting Apollo Creed, and it's against all the odds, and then intertwined in all that is the love story. So I appreciate the way you did that. And let's just circle back to the church again, and Bishop Joshua Rodriguez, and you talk about him as even as a second father, as a mentor, and just talk about the difference that the church and Bishop Joshua made in your life.
Yeah, so he's my hero. Uh, he is the unsung hero of so many young people that today enjoy uh, many lucrative careers, and he's been doing this for 30 years. This October is the
Mm,
30th anniversary of his work with Pastor Paula. Um, what I loved about him is he saw me as a son right away, and embraced me like one, and I have been searching for that my whole life. I had a father that couldn't do that, couldn't say words like "I'm proud of you," like "good job." He didn't say bad words. Uh,
mm,
he didn't beat us up, but he was just a different guy, And for a kid that needs affirmation, that didn't exist. And um, he picked up an important role I needed at that time, and he still mentors me today. 18 years have passed, uh,
mm.
and he's still my mentor and
That's great.
pastor. You know,
He's a good man and a great pastor. So as the title says, and go back to your country, It's an against all odds story. And you immigrate to the United States 2 times. You work in a deli, Dunkin' Donuts, Toys R Us, a bank. Today you're a CEO. And it's really, I found that really interesting too in the book about how you win these awards at Toys R Us and you become like record breaker there in some kind of way. Then you end up in a bank and then work your way up. How did you persevere to achieve this American dream? I know you're a very proud American citizen too. You talk about that in the book too. But how does one persevere to achieve this dream or any dream?
Yeah, I think you have to just have a dream that's worth doing whatever it takes. And at that time, I wanted to get married. Bank of America's success had to do with my wife. I wanted to marry her so bad that, and her parents, man, they're so funny. After they agree that I proposed to her, and the ring has been purchased and the celebration took place. By the way, you got to make some money. You got to make at least $40,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Before you could get married. So take your time. I was thinking, we're engaged in 6 months. We got a wedding coming, and that didn't happen. So it was, no, you want to get married, you gotta be able to support yourself, your family. If you guys have a baby, you can't be making minimum wage. So that pushed me to like, okay, so then if I'm gonna make 40,000, what do I need to do? Where am I now? Okay, I need to learn how to get a promotion. The next promotion is sales. I discovered I like sales, but how do I get there? And I would ask, and I would do whatever it takes, like just to learn what I need to learn, to practice it, to sell. And before you know it, the promotion came, but there's always a surprise, and there's some other surprise and another twist. But I wanted to get married. I wanted to get married, and I did it. When we got married, I broke the 40,000 before our wedding date. I broke that number, and from there, that's when I needed to find another goal, because I'm already married. All this acceleration in my career was tied to the goal of getting married. Everybody has a different goal. Like, I want to make money. I want to save $100,000 to put a down payment on my dream home. My goal was to marry my dream girl, which I knew was mine from heaven. Like from the age of 16, I knew that. So that was my goal. And it's interesting, we talk about goal setting and going after what it is God puts in your heart, and but that thing has to be deep, like it has to be purposeful, right? And marriage was my purpose. I did not want to be in bed with anyone till we get married. It was just like, I took that word to heart, and we waited, and I worked, and I got married to my dream girl. And in that first year, that's when the transition to real estate happened, because I wanted my next goal, which would now involve my wife and our future kids.
Yeah, and just briefly describe your company today. What do you do? And I think your brother is part of that too, or?
Yeah. So my family jumped on board. I got my real estate license 10 years ago, nearly 11 years ago, and opened up a real estate brokerage within 18 months. And today it's called Provident Legacy. Provident Legacy is a family of companies. So we do real estate brokerage, real estate education. So we have a licensing school. And then we have real estate development, the development arm of our company, where we build and we purchase land and property, etc. So it became, I mean, I haven't dreamed that dream back then. Like I never thought that this would be, the life I'm dealing with now. And I enjoy every minute of it. It's a lot of tension and stress, but it's up my alley. Like I've done harder things, than trying to close someone's deal,
like working in a deli, right?
Yeah, exactly. it's like, God prepares you. He always does. Like, you don't
Mm,
know why you're going through difficult times. You have no clue. But if you just wait and get through it, it's prepping you for something that you can't succeed at unless you go through this. So I think you see that in the book. You start to see, like, okay, he didn't just become a CEO out of nowhere. Like it was as if God handed him all the keys. You need to learn how to scrub this grill as hard as you can. And if you
mm,
know there's someone with a ring that's going to hit you on the back of the head, and it's going to be hard and it's going to be mean, but God wants to open up your heart so you could have compassion once it's your turn to be in power, once it's your turn to be the boss, once it's your turn to employ and have so many people under your care. You'll know compassion and you'll know love and you'll know how to treat them. And I'm so happy to be able to tell the story now.
yeah.
I'm in the best position in my life to just get it out. And if as I stated in the opening, um, if God takes me, and that's completely whenever He wants, I'm more satisfied than ever, because this is finally out. And it was 3 years in the making. Getting all this done, and such a big team,
Yeah.
big team that it took to help me get it out.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and it's just such godly wisdom in what you just shared for the viewers and for anyone. And as I'm reading the book and I'm finishing it the other night, um, it kind of surprised me a little. I said, "Wow, not only is the book going to end, but this guy is challenging me. He's asking me about dreams," and I thought that was a nice twist at the end. So, what is your challenge to the readers of Go Back to Your Country?
Yeah. So I wanted my story to just make you think about your own story. So my challenge is for you to tell your story, right? But you can't tell your story until you discover your story. You're living it, but you're not thinking about it so much. So my challenge is for you to dig in and find God's purpose that He laid out, and He gives you clues through your journey. So if we take a look back 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, and try to just understand how we got to where we are today. I guarantee you're going to find clues where God intentionally disrupted something, or allowed you to go through something that's preparing you for what you're dealing with now and what you're going to be dealing with down the road. So that's my
Absolutely.
challenge,
Well,
to live a purpose-filled life by examining your own story. Examine your own story.
mhm. Well, thanks for that, and thanks for being with us today. Our time is gone, but let's do this again sometime soon. I got a feeling that there might be another book down the pipeline. Who knows? But God bless, and just give the viewers the website for the book. And it's not only a website for the book; it's there's some other stuff going on there too, right?
Yes. So actually, it's the title of the book. So it's gobacktoyourcountry.com. Gobacktoyourcountry.com. We have some book signings coming up, Tom, if you want me to share some of that information.
Absolutely.
We have on the 23rd of January a book signing at the Little Boho Bookstore in Bayonne, New Jersey. The 24th, we're doing a book signing at the City Line Church, where we just finished discussing my story there.
Sure.
We're doing that on the 24th after each one of the services. And then in February 6th, we have a book signing at the Jesus Book and Gift Store in Iselin, New Jersey. So
Excellent.
we have that coming up. So
Yeah.
those 3 dates coming up, you may want to.
Excellent. Well, if you want more information, you can go to gobacktoyourcountry.com. And once again, congratulations on the book. And thanks for being our first guest. It was a pleasure to speak with you. And just want to remind everyone that our website is tristatevoice.com. And this will be on that website, and probably an article to accompany it, and other stories like this. So God bless, Issa, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tom. God bless you. Be well.
God bless.